Hello, in this video we will discuss about the regulation of blood pressure and autonomic innervation. And we will also understand about the high blood pressure complication, and there are many things. So let's begin to understand. First of all, the normal blood pressure is the systolic blood pressure and diastolic blood pressure, which that is maintained throughout the life if the possibility, and through aging it can be changed. So the age wise the blood pressure regulation will be changed. So here is the person which that is the basically the detection of the blood pressure is basically the systolic blood pressure and diastolic blood pressure, which that is can measure the pressure of the millimeter of mercury. So here is the 120 millimeter of mercury is the systolic blood pressure when the heart will contract and eject the blood, so the stroke volume will depend. And here is the diastolic blood pressure is the 80 millimeter of mercury. Why? Because the dilation of the heart will decrease the blood pressure in the aorta and artery and arterioles to the capillary. So in the case of 120 millimeter of mercury is due to the contraction of muscle will increase the aortic pressure. So remember about that. And here is, let's begin to understand the general overview of the heart. Here is the aorta, and here is the AV node and SA node. And here is the left atrium and left ventricle, and right atrium and right ventricle. Right atrium and right ventricle used for the deoxygenated blood move from the superior and inferior vena cava toward the right atrium to right ventricle, while the left atrium to left ventricle is a movement through pulmonary vein, which that is the oxygenated blood move toward the heart from pulmonary vein to the left atrium to the ventricle and move through a aortic valve to aorta and descending aorta and aortic arch and the carotid artery looking like this. So this is the movement of the blood in the heart, which that is the oxygenated blood pump out by via a contraction of the wall of the heart muscle and eject the blood toward descending aorta and aortic arch throughout the body, while the deoxygenated blood move toward through superior and inferior vena cava into the right atrium to right ventricle and move through a pulmonary artery. So here is, let's begin to understand the action potential, normal and parasympathetic and sympathetic. So what is that? Here is the vertical shows that the membrane potential in millivolt, while the horizontal shows the time period. So here is a beat, which that is normally here is the threshold, which that is, and hyperpolarization will be occur. In this way the pre-potential spontaneous depolarization will be occur, and this is the normal graph for showing the heartbeat in the membrane potential. So in this way the depolarization and repolarization look like this, while here is the parasympathetic stimulation will slower the depolarization and the heartbeat will be slow, and in this way the delay, and here is the time will require more for the contraction and relaxation of the muscle, simply heartbeat. So the basically minus 80 millivolt to the basically minus 80 millivolt to move upward toward the minus 40 is the threshold, toward the upward is positive 20 is the maximum. So here is that is the basically sympathetic nervous system will increase the heartbeat, so it means that time will require less for the beating of heart more as compared to the parasympathetic nervous system, and crossing the threshold line more as compared to the parasympathetic nervous system. So the family ventricular function curve, here is the family of ventricular function curve. Ventricle should be contract for ejection of the blood. So in this way here is, you can see the cardiac output is a vertically shows that sympathetic stimulation increase heart rate and contractility, and in this way the cardiac output will be increased and the stroke volume will be increased. In this way, the stroke volume means the ejection of the blood will be more, as well as the heart rate will be increased, while the decrease during the parasympathetic nerve stimulation and parasympathetic nerve stimulation decrease heart rate, while the sympathetic nerve stimulation will increase the heart rate. So this is the mechanism for regulation of the regulation of the blood pressure. So let's begin to understand the complication related to the blood pressure. For example, here is the arteriosclerosis. Here is the person which that contains circulatory system, and here is the arteriosclerosis will be occur. Here is the atherosclerosis, which that is develop the plaque due to the endothelial cell dysfunction in the endothelial wall, endothelial side. And tunica media will contain a atheroma, and in this way the clotting of the cholesterol and fat deposition due to the macrophage activity. And here is the atherosclerosis will be occur, will lead to increase the blood pressure due to the narrowing range and narrowing artery. And here the arteriosclerosis means the thickness of the artery. Thickness of the artery is known as the arteriosclerosis, while the atherosclerosis means the plaque develop. So here is the erectile dysfunction is a problem, and edema. The fluid will be retained into the legs and arms where the plaque will develop. And fatigue, high blood pressure due to the narrowing the blood vessel, and high stroke volume. Why higher stroke volume? Because the blood pressure will be more, sympathetic nervous system stimulation, and high blood flow and stroke can be occur. And eyes complication, blindness, headache, and brain hemorrhage will be occur. How it's possible? Let's begin to understand. Here is the high blood pressure will develop due to the narrowing of the blood vessel due to the plaque development is known as arteriosclerosis. And in this way, the basically is the enlarged artery, high blood pressure due to the arteriosclerosis, and that is why the blood vessel want to develop more rigid, and that is why the increase the blood pressure. So the increase of the blood pressure will basically not completely oxygenated and deoxygenated due to the irregular heartbeat. So the sympathetic nervous, and here is the block artery due to the thrombosis, due to the rupturing of the plaque, which that is covered by the endothelial cell and covered by the other fibrin and other growth factor will develop the coverage, ultimately burst, and after the bursting the blockage will be developed, and this blockage will lead to burst the whole artery for hemorrhage. There are many type of hemorrhage. So here is a blockage, for example, the carotid artery. For example, the hemorrhage will be occur, thrombosis will be occur. This thrombosis will lead to move upward toward the brain side, and where the narrow capillary are present. So the cardiac output will be more, so it means the rupturing of the small capillary in the brain will lead to brain hemorrhage and dementia and brain fog. On the basis of situation is the large vein or artery will be ruptured, so that is why lead to paralysis or dementia as well as other complications. So remember, here is the partially blockage or tightening of an artery. So arteriosclerosis can cause an increase in blood pressure. So this was the overview. We will discuss in the another video about the complication as well as the atherosclerosis and arteriosclerosis process. But in this video, that is the overview, so you can understand. Let's begin to understand the autonomic innervation and control of the blood pressure. So this is the brain and contain brain stem. This brain stem contain a medulla oblongata. This medulla oblongata, upper side is the pons. Medulla oblongata contain nucleus. This center, it is known as the cardioregulatory center and chemoreceptor in medulla oblongata. And in this way, the chemoreceptor are present. Why chemoreceptor are present? Because the carbon dioxide and oxygen detection. If the carbon dioxide will be more, so the beating of heart will be more for the expelling of the carbon dioxide. So during the exercise, it will be sympathetic nervous system activate. So here is the heart contain a baroreceptor in wall of internal carotid artery, and the carotid body, the chemoreceptor are present for detection of the chemical carbon dioxide and oxygen. And here is the baroreceptor in aorta. On the basis of the basically sinoatrial node is here, and here is the heart. And important things you should need to understand: when the carbon dioxide detection, it means the expelling of the carbon dioxide, exhalation of the carbon dioxide will be more, so the breathing will be more, and oxygen requirement will be less, so the breathing will be less. If the oxygen requirement will be more, so the breathing will be more. So let's begin to understand first step by step. Sensory neurons is red color. I will show carry action potential from baroreceptor to the cardioregulatory center, and the chemoreceptor in the medulla oblongata influence the cardioregulatory center. So the chemoreceptor will influence to the cardioregulatory center. So let's begin to understand. This is the cardioregulatory center and chemoreceptor in medulla oblongata. So in this way, here you can see the sensory nerve fiber. The sensory nerve fiber will arise from the baroreceptor in wall of internal carotid artery as well as the carotid body chemoreceptor. So in this way, here is the sensory nerve fiber will be extend from the heart toward the brain, and here is the cardioregulatory center and chemoreceptor in medulla oblongata will detect. After the detection, on the basis of requirement, the heartbeat will increase or decrease. So here the green color is showing that is the cardioregulatory center. The below is the basically is the parasympathetic nervous system extension as well as sympathetic nervous system extension. So let's here is I will understand. Here is the sensory the cardioregulatory the cardioregulatory center control the frequency of action potential in the parasympathetic nervous system. So red color I will show, and extending to the heart, the parasympathetic neuron decrease the heart rate. So how it's possible? Let's begin to understand. So the green color is which that is the cardioregulatory center control the frequency of action potential in the parasympathetic neurons, red color here. And in this way, extending to the heart, toward the heart, the parasympathetic neurons decrease heart rate. So in this way, here is the parasympathetic neuron will decrease. So it means it is the vagal nerve. This vagal nerve is a cranial nerve which that is used after the digestion as well as after the relaxation. The vagal nerve stimulation for decrease the heart rate and the parasympathetic nervous system, and the cardiac output will be decreased. So here is on the other hand, the heart rate will be increased due to the sympathetic nerve fiber stimulation. So the firing and depolarization of the sympathetic nerve fiber will target to the sinoatrial node, will stimulate to heartbeat more faster. So this is the cardioregulatory center control the frequency of action potential in the sympathetic nerves. Blue color I will show. As extending to the heart, the sympathetic neurons increase the heart rate and stroke volume. So increase the heart rate and stroke volume. So that is why the blue color is showing that this is the baroreceptor in aorta. After the stretching of the wall of the aorta will detect the requirement of the blood pressure and depolarization of the heart faster or lesser. So in this way, the sensory neuron for nerve fiber is a blue color. Is basically the blue color. Extend to the heart, to the sympathetic neuron, increase the heart rate and stroke volume. So anyhow, And next is the cardioregulatory center, influences the frequency of action potential in sympathetic neuron, blue extending to the adrenal medulla. So the sympathetic neuron. So blue, you can I am drawing the black color for understanding. So this is the black color, and this is the sympathetic nerve fiber to adrenal gland. So remember, this is the adrenergic neuron. This adrenergic neuron will stimulate and produce the neurotransmitter, will bind. This neurotransmitter can be epinephrine or norepinephrine or other thing, as well as the other stimulatory neurotransmitter for stimulate the adrenal medulla to produce the cortisol, epinephrine and norepinephrine. And this epinephrine and norepinephrine, on the basis of contraction of the digestive tract, will be relaxed, while the contraction of the heart and the blood vessel will be increased. So the epinephrine and norepinephrine will function differently in the different organ during the sympathetic nervous system. So the sympathetic nerve fiber to adrenal gland will target. So that is why it will increase the heartbeat. So that is the sympathetic nervous system innervation and parasympathetic nervous system. So that is the regulation of blood pressure and autonomic innervation. So thanks for watching. Please make sure to subscribe, like and share. Bye.